Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about the new horror movie, Smile. The marketing for this movie in the past couple weeks has been really good, and that made me want to check it out. The synopsis is as follows. After witnessing a bizarre traumatic incident involving a patient, Dr. Rose Cotter starts experiencing frightening occurrences that she can't explain. As an overwhelming terror begins taking over her life, Rose must confront her troubling past in order to survive and escape her horrifying new reality. So without further ado, let's get into the 6 things that make a movie great. 1. The plot. This movie starts with Rose taking care of some of her other patients and you getting to see the way that she works with them. She's about to leave when all of a sudden her phone rings, she takes the call, and she finds herself with another patient that just came in. This patient seems deathly afraid, but pretty coherent, and after a while of going back and forth, the patient expresses to Rose that the reason why she's so afraid is because she sees this thing. It can disguise itself as people that you know or people that are dead, but it gives you this really malicious and evil smile, along with telling you that you're gonna die. Rose has a hard time believing this at first, but then watches as her patient smiles at her and then proceeds to slit her own throat. Rose is pretty understandably shaken up, but then she starts seeing this smiling thing in multiple different forms everywhere she goes. Walking into this film, there were a couple ways that it could have gone. I was really hoping that this movie was going to be a creature horror film, but instead it decided to be a typical demonic horror film, while also trying to implement sub-themes of past trauma and mental health. But it never did anything with that, and it ended up just distracting from this movie. I've seen this kind of sub-theme half attempt fail in a movie like Antlers, and it didn't do this movie any favors. This movie ends horribly. Not only is it extremely disturbing, but it's also really frustrating. It makes you feel like you just wasted your life watching this movie. While talking with my cousin after the film, he pointed something very astute out to me. The reason why this movie kind of felt long and drawn on and boring at times was because the audience figures out within the first 15 minutes of the movie what's going on and how it happens. And then the audience has to watch the people in the movie figure it out for the next hour and a half, only to have it flop on its face at the end of the film. So for me, plot gets a thumbs down. 2 is family friendliness. This movie's rated R, and that's very much where it belongs. There's a moderate amount of profanity, but the main reason why this movie is rated R is because of graphic violence and very, very disturbing images. They are very bloody, very graphic, very demonic and disturbing, and they're things that you wish you could get removed from your head after watching the movie. Family friendliness gets a thumbs down. 3 is acting and script. The acting in this movie was okay. I think Sosie Bacon did a decent job as Rose, and her performance was by far the best in the film, but the rest of the performances in the movie just didn't feel that great. I think part of that is because of the script. Sometimes it seemed like the script was trying to be funny, but the way it came across on screen was a bit forced, paired with the fact that they were kind of distracted by the mental health sub-theme that they didn't end up using. So for me, acting and script get a 50-50. 4 is character development. We don't get any character development except for the character of Rose, and even then it's not that great. We get some look into her family history, and the film tries to be very subtle with some of the relationships that are present instead of just coming right out and saying what that relationship looks like. But even with the inclusion of those things, this movie really feels like watching Rose go crazy, and we don't get to see much depth to her character. So for me, character development gets a thumbs down. 5 is visuals and CGI. This movie has some pretty creepy moments. I think that its best scary moments were very subtle, and it does a pretty decent job of leading you to those moments, but this movie used quite a few jump scares. It really felt like it went from naturally creepy to all jump scares to super disturbing demonic shock and awe material, when really its best moments were in the first act. But in my opinion, there are some things that you just shouldn't see. So for me, visuals and CGI get a 50-50. And 6 is rewatchability. No thanks. On top of being just not that great of a horror movie, the content in this film is extremely disturbing. I have no interest in watching this movie again. Thumbs down. With all these areas considered, I have to give Smile a 3 out of 10. This movie had a decent concept behind it, even though it felt very semblant of another film. But it didn't have the greatest acting, had a distracted plot and script, very extremely disturbing visuals, and an ending so disturbing and frustrating that it made you hate the entire movie. Again, I personally think that had this movie been a creature horror film, that it would have been a lot better. But unfortunately, I think it's easier to make a demonic thriller than it is to make a good creature horror film. With that being said, I definitely recommend not going to watch this movie in theaters, let alone watch it at all. Good horror movies are very few and far between, and this is not one of them. Thank you so much for watching. If you've seen the movie Smile, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. As always, I appreciate your love and support, and I'll catch you guys and gals in the next one.